Hello and welcome to another episode of the IDS Podcast, and I'm here with Jenna Gaidusek. How are you, Jenna?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for coming in. You literally just got off a plane from Charleston, South Carolina, but you're here for an IDS event. We'll talk about that in a second. But thanks for coming in. And before we start, I just want to give a shout out to East End Interiors. We're in their space today. It looks beautiful, fantastic showroom. So if anybody's interested in seeing what they have, check out eastendinteriors.com. But let's talk about, I guess, you for a second, and let's start with your background. You have a business, AI for interior designers.
Yes, that's one of them. Mm-hmm.
That's one of them. Okay. But I guess that's the focus today.
Yes.
And that's the focus of why you're here in New York, which is for an event we have going on tomorrow where you're basically, I think that's the name of the program also, right? AI for interior designers. Yep. So what is your background and how did you get into AI?
Okay. So I have a degree in interior design. I went to college actually in upstate New York for that. And I have been practicing ever since. So I graduated in 2010, kind of went a retail route for a little bit, lived in New York City, found that that is not what I wanted to be doing, didn't want to be commuting. I inherently am an introvert and love like hanging out at my house. So in 2015, I left that job and started virtual interior design. It was a very lonely place, especially living in the city and always working and never leaving the house. So I started a community called eDesign Tribe on Facebook, which is now about 5,000 people. But before I sold it to MyDoma, spoiler alert, I built a rendering software that adapted into other programs that I was training. So I had a school called eDesign U, and then a rendering software, and then another program that I developed called Design in 5. So I built all that, had my second child, and MyDoma approached me about merging and acquiring my company, and I was like, yes, I need a break. So sold the company and started working with MyDoma to teach rendering and software and all their project management stuff. So from there, I was like, Sarah Daniele, who's amazing, and she's one of the co-founders of MyDoma. I was like, I am doing this AI stuff, and I'm exploring all the new tech that's coming out. What do you think if I just start doing, training on that, just by myself? And she was like, go for it. You are the person to do this. Because I was practicing again, which is nice. After I sold the company, I was able to get back to design. So
how recently was this?
2022.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I was designing, and then AI stuff started coming out, and I was like, I just have to see where this is going to take us. I'm just always been so curious about tech. Grew up playing Sims and all that stuff. So tech has always been and design has always been a passion of mine. So teaching it is just second nature. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
All right, cool. So for people that are not even familiar with what this is, can you tell or explain to people? I guess AI is hard to explain. I put it in a nutshell in a sentence or two. But what is it? What does this even mean?
Yep. So AI, artificial intelligence. One of the main companies is OpenAI, and you've probably heard of ChatGPT by now. So ChatGPT is available for free programs, and then there's also paid programs that you can do for pro, which I highly recommend. Or you can create AI-generated images. So that would be through programs like ChatGPT using the DALL-E feature on the Plus program, or through MidJourney. So those are my two favorites when it comes to that, but there's so many. And basically what artificial intelligence, AI, is a way for designers to enhance their current business and their current workflow and just do it faster and more intentionally using AI.
So explain that a little. I guess making their workflow more efficient. What kind of things can people, or designers for that matter, utilize AI for? And for example, I saw one of your videos posted on social media, which, it's funny because I know the capabilities of AI, and there are some things I never thought to do with AI. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the biggest thing that's holding me back from utilizing it more. It's not that I don't know it can't do it. I just don't think of it.
Right.
But I saw one of the videos you posted where I think it must have been your house. You posted a picture of your wallpaper. And you were like, I'm assuming that's probably also the video that got the most views because it's pretty incredible. And you asked it to spit out, I guess the hex color, not only the hex numbers of your wallpaper, but literally the Benjamin Moore and Sherwin Williams paint numbers. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's, one of the best utilities of something like this because it all happens within 30 seconds, literally. But what kind of utilities can designers use? I know you mentioned renderings, use AI for.
Whatever you want. So just like you said, where like you don't think about it. And you know, in the world of when internet started, everybody was like, this is just a fad. This isn't going to take off until we started Googling everything every day. So now as much as you Google stuff, run it through ChatGPT. It's probably going to come out with a better answer, and it's going to be more helpful for you. So
I use ChatGPT more than Google now,
right?
For search.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So really, it's kind of like, what do you do in your workflow already, and then where can you outsource different things to ChatGPT? Or for me, instead of looking through Pinterest or Instagram for like inspirational imagery for what I'm trying to design before I start sourcing and rendering anything for my client, I will start to create images in MidJourney or DALL-E, and I'll be like, here's some ideas of the concept that I'm thinking, here's color palettes, all of that. It gets me to the results faster. So instead of looking for inspirational images for hours on Pinterest, I can make them in 30 seconds, and I can have exactly what I'm looking for, have that conversation with the client, say, here's the ideas, here's a color palette, what do you think about this? And then we move on to the next phase, and we just got there so much faster than previously. So I also build GPTs, which basically are pre-trained transformers, that's what GPT stands for, that individually all have a very specific task. And I started—
It's like an automation, essentially.
Yes, yeah. So I build them based off of where I have holes in my business. So we were talking about meta descriptions earlier. I write them for meta descriptions because I'm a designer. I don't like writing things. I've got one for writing blog posts. I've got one for giving me hashtags and captions and alt text for my Instagram posts. I've got a design buddy that helps me with concepts. I mean, I could go on, but like I built all of these things out of necessity. When it came to a certain point in my workflow, I was like, how can I make this better? And how can I use AI to do that?
So that's a conversation we have to have a different time, because I do a lot of those things, but I don't have it automated. Like I'll put in, if I'm going to post on Instagram, I'll put in a couple of my images and I'll be like, give me a caption and trending hashtags. But if I didn't have to actually tell it to do that, you know, the same thing with blog posts too. That'll go a long way. But you know, it's funny you say renderings, because I've used DALL-E very often, as most recently as this morning, and I cannot get results that I'm happy with. And maybe it's because I'm not using it to make renders or anything like that. Like for instance, in my own example, I'm a host, not hosting, I'm sponsoring a golf event for the local AIA coming up, and I needed to get a 3x4 foot ad. So I uploaded my logo and said, you know, make me an ad for the whole sponsor, and it was awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Besides the fact that everything was spelled wrong.
Right.
You know, it was just awful. So I guess, is it just experience and learning how it works and how you can prompt it properly?
Yeah, so I created kind of a workflow. What that has to do with ChatGPT, my design assistant, having a conversation and programming it on that client, the information for that project, and then I start to have it create the images. But DALL-E images suck compared to MidJourney. So they do create incredible prompts, though, for their images. So what I do is I will create an image in DALL-E, open it up, there's a little eye when you open up the picture, and that gives you the prompt. And then you can copy the prompt and put it in MidJourney. MidJourney is where it's at. That's what's going to make you the best image. So there is a little workflow there to get the best images, but something that's important to know is that due to copyright restrictions, you can never get the exact product or wallpaper or fabric that you're looking for, but it'll get you in a conceptual area that you can use to move on to the next phase as a design professional.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because that's a big issue among us photographers, is how are these AIs utilizing our copyrighted images to learn. But I guess that's a whole conversation for another day.
We need some legislation. It's a
It'll
wild west
happen.
out there.
I feel like it's so new that no one knows what to do, and especially like this just came about last week, and I don't even know. I'm assuming you're up to speed with it, but Adobe just changed their terms of services. I think it was a week or two ago that says now anything you create using Adobe software, including Photoshop, they're allowed to use for their AI learning.
Yeah, they
Firefly.
trained their stuff differently. So Adobe has been using their training on all of Adobe's stock images. So Adobe Firefly is kind of crazy with the stuff that it comes out. It can produce some pretty interesting artwork, but as far as interiors go, or sloppy because it's basically been trained on just the stock images and not on everything, like MidJourney and OpenAI has, where that was probably stolen. And I know that sucks, but like it is pulling from millions of different images to take the words that you provided and then create a different one. I've never gotten the same image twice. So it might be pulling from all of these images, but it's not taking the exact image. And I do have lines in the sand, if you wanted to talk about ethics, where like I don't run any designers, any artwork, anything like that through any of my AI programs, because I would hate to have somebody else's photography and then it like tweak it just slightly, but it still is their work. So I don't run people's stuff.
I mean, we can talk about that in a little bit later, because I'm a big stickler for copyright and protecting not only my work but any artist's work. But from my perspective, the built-in AI that Photoshop has is incredible for the type of work, because I'm not doing renderings really, but I'm using AI to, let's say, retouch something that I couldn't normally do or that would take me 4 hours. If there's a car in the shot that I need to get out, where it would previously take me 3-4 hours to remove from the shot. And sometimes the results are awful, and sometimes the results are good or good enough where you know, it's 80% of the way there. It just saved me 2 hours, and now I only have to put in a half hour instead of 3 hours. So
and background remove.
Yes,
like that's a big one too.
It's getting incredible from that standpoint. My only hope for you interior designers listening is that they don't get crazy with the requests, because now they're starting to realize how easy some of this stuff is to do. But you know, that's a whole different conversation again. So let's talk about, from a designer standpoint, like a typical workflow that a designer can do using AI. I guess from the initial sales call, I mean, I guess you can utilize AI for everything from, I guess you can create automations. Can you work automations in with emails and stuff like that?
Sure.
So from literally the lead, you get a lead on your website, and how do you start utilizing AI to your everyday workflow? I mean, it's almost like having an assistant or you know, someone work with you that's not a person. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different ways. I'll tell you first the pathway that I would take for like a design project, and then I'll tell you what I would do for like nurturing email sequences, because those are two very different things, but both can use AI. So the first one is I use my design assistant that I've been training. I've had over 300 conversations with it, and I also open it up to other interior designers. I sell it on my website, so you can use it too if you don't want to train your own. So basically what does that mean? Does that mean it's like a plugin for like ChatGPT? How does that work? It is
if they want to purchase it.
Yeah, it's a custom GPT that I built, but it's private, so it's not in the GPT store on ChatGPT. You would need my direct link, so I do sell them with training on how to use them on my website, AI for Interior Designers. And I've got not just a design assistant, I got one for like blogging for interior designers, how to define your ideal client, those types of things.
You have one for interior design photographers?
Yeah, but I can build one. We could literally build one in 5 minutes after
let's
that.
Do it.
Okay, so with my design assistant, basically I've trained it on this process where I have my client onboarding sequence, which is a type form questionnaire. So they fill out like all these questions that I've really kind of tailored around like what my next step utilizing AI is going to be. So I'm capturing information about the project, about my client, about their likes and dislikes. I've included AI images in there for inspirational pictures instead of like going to Pinterest and being like that. So now they're all in there. They're all in the style that I want to design. Okay, so I have them all select that, some color palettes, and then I take that and then any notes that I've taken from like onboarding call with my client, because I work virtually. I don't really work in person. So I take all those and my AI notes from that Zoom call, which I use Fathom. There's a ton of different note takers out there. I prefer Fathom. So I take that and my questionnaire, and then I go to my design assistant. I'm like, here's the new project. Create a beautiful, like, I don't even need to say this because it knows what to do. So it takes all those notes and it organizes everything. Bullet point, here's the project, here's the details, here's everything that we need to consider going into this. I then take that and then I use my Doma, so I put that into my Doma's assistant, Max, and then I create a client portal from that. Okay, so going back to my GPT, the next thing that I'm going to do is say, okay, knowing all this information, and I'll upload any of the inspirational pictures that they might have checked off, create a concept board for me, and then a rendering. So it creates and generates those images. Now, remember, I just said I don't love the images that it comes out with, so I capture the prompt, and then I put it over in MidJourney and see how they compare. Then I just keep having conversation, back and forth. And then from there, I pitch these ideas to my client for, here's the color palette I'm thinking, here's the overall look that I'm thinking about. And that's before we even start designing. Now, there's so many more things I can do with this, but it's so good for like the early conceptual part to be on the same page with your client before you source anything. Before I still hand render everything because these are in no way accurate to like lay out stuff for scale. So then I'll go to the drawing board and I'll start actually sourcing product and all of that. So
but that whole process can literally be under 10 minutes, which is incredible.
Yeah, and I'm going to share it tomorrow during the presentation. I did one recently, and it even gave me ideas for like sourcing product that it sees in the design boards that it gave me, and it gives me a retail option, and then it'll give me, I asked for a trade option, which I've kind of gave it High Point Market's a directory, so it looks at all those stores. So basically, it gives me all these lists for products, but they're not always accurate. Like, it's not always like live information. A lot of them have been discontinued. So, but it's a starting point for like where to find product. Okay, so that's like the tip of the iceberg of what you can do with the design assistant. The others part that we were talking about was like a nurture sequence. So I did build one for like creating an opt-in, which is basically like what a designer can put on their website to obtain emails from people in exchange for something of value, right? So that's opt-in for marketing. Once they're on your email list, then you need to nurture them into becoming clients. So you can basically write an entire nurture email sequence for your email automation in ChatGPT, and then move it over to whatever your CRM is. So maybe ActiveCampaign, or I use Squarespace, and then set up all those triggers to automatically go through. This can be for nurture sequence for incoming leads, but it can also be for like the client experience, like checkpoints along the way. Yeah. Those might not be automated, but they are something that you could set up and then like send when you're ready to.
Every week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. No, that's interesting. And then beyond that, I mean, that's all for, I guess, starting new design processes. What about like the client interaction? How can you utilize? Obviously, we spoke about renders, even though you do hand renders, because I'm assuming, based on my experience with Dolly, like the renders are not there yet.
Yep.
I mean, it's just hard to take your vision and have a computer spit it out for you.
Right.
So, what about client interaction, and how does a designer utilize AI for client interaction? I think besides the obvious is like having them design nice decks for them and stuff like that.
With the client, so the client's not really in there at this point. They're not in your ChatGPT. For me, client interaction should be a lot more personal, so I don't use it a lot. But the one way that I find that myself and other designers are using it is to sound nicer when we're replying to emails. Like, here's what I really want to say, but like make this sound better so that it doesn't sound like what I'm really thinking.
Yes, I need that. I have that trouble. You know, it's funny. I wrote, not a nasty email, I shouldn't say that, but I wrote an email which probably should have been written nicer to a client, and I CC'd my 2 partners on it. And I actually CC'd the 2 of them and not my actual client. And they were like, thank God you CC'd us and not the client, because I understand why you said that, but let's rethink this.
Yep.
So
so that's how I would use it. I'm not really, taking things verbatim and being like, here, client, take this information. It's definitely filtered through me as a human, because there's a disconnect there.
Cool. So I would imagine a lot of designers, especially if you're, I'll use 30 and over, are hesitant, or maybe 40 and over, whatever, are hesitant to like just bring this workflow into that. I mean, people are just creatures of habit, and you're used to doing something a certain way. I'm just going to keep doing it. What's the best way for someone to at least just dive into it a little, or just get your feet wet a little and taste what AI has for you? And I feel like it's going to be a progression, like it was for me as a photographer. You're gonna try this and be like, oh, that's cool. That saved me some time. Oh, I have an idea. Let me try this. Yeah. And then, everyone was hesitant first with the generative, what's it called? Fill on Photoshop, whatever it's called. Yeah. But it just slowly got better and better the more people use it. So it's the same thing with AI. People are going to be a little hesitant to try it at first. I mean, to me, I would seem like do something small, blog post or social media post, and just see what you get. But what's the best way for people to kind of just dive in and see the capabilities instead of you have a whole workflow based off that, and I don't people that have never done this are probably not ready for that yet.
Yeah. Oh, so, I didn't start here. Yeah. So there's a few different answers to that. One of them is ChatGPT 4.0 Omni is a newer release before ChatGPT 5 ends up coming out. We're anticipating that in summer or fall. We don't have a set time yet. But anyway, 4.0 has so many free features on it right now that people can just go on and like start asking questions. If it's not even design related, be like, here's what I have in my fridge. What should I make for dinner? Exactly. Easy, right?
Like I was saying to you before, like my son had a report on one of the planets, and it spit out tons of information on the planet Neptune, was way too scientific for a fourth grader, and I literally said dumb it down for a fourth grader, and it was perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, so try to use it in like your everyday life if you're not sure about how it can work in your workflow yet. But as you're doing your projects, be like, I wonder if I can ask AI about that, and just kind of see like what it says. And if it's something that adds value to your workflow, great. If it doesn't, then maybe circle back later. But I would not feel intimidated of this because it's literally in everything. So the designers that are like, oh, I'll never use AI, you're using AI. I can promise you that. Don't even realize it. It's in everything.
And it's like every other technology. If you don't adapt, you're going to be the one in 5 years all the way at the back of the line.
Yeah.
But someone that wants to learn, I know you have a lot of resources out there, and you can talk about them if you want. What are some resources for people that want to get their feet wet a little to find some information and figure out not only how to use it for their business, but just how to use it in general?
So I do a lot of presentations like I'm doing here, IDS Long Island. So I kind of travel, and you might catch me at something local or at High Point. But AIforinteriordesigners.com is my website. I scooped that up for SEO, so everybody knows where to find it. But on there, I've got free resources. I've got just kind of things like blog posts and like how to set up your accounts is a free resource that I have on there because MidJourney can be tricky to start, and that's kind of a hesitation for people. And then, sometimes I'll do like online free things too with other
organizations.
Thank you. Okay. So sometimes I'll do just different presentations for different organizations all around the country. Some are virtual too. So there's some places.
Cool. And your social media.
Oh, yeah. My Instagram.
Yeah. No. For me, your social media was like, oh, I never thought of this. This makes sense. It's like the wallpaper thing, and I never thought of it. And, it's funny because from a photography standpoint, I feel like I could start utilizing it. And like, I'm thinking about this now as you're talking and thinking about your wallpaper video. I can start using it to help me color correct and make sure I have accurate color. And I haven't really thought this out and figured out the best way to achieve that. But, if I'm shooting a room like this and there's tungsten lights and it's really yellow, and I know that this wall is white, not really yellow. If I have source images or take an image on my phone, because the phones for some reason put out better color than like the real professional cameras, straight out of camera. Use those as source images to help match and stuff like this. It can just do incredible stuff even from the photographer standpoint. And I guess it's new to photographers. I wonder if there's anybody out there that does AI for photographers. I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
And if there are, let me know about them. But no, it's incredible to see how they can all use that.
You actually might want to use a color reader for that. So what I posted about...
it's like a little Nick thing. Is that what you're talking about?
There's Nick. Yeah. I have another one. Mine's called Easy Color Reader. Because when I posted that, and with great, it totally makes sense, they're not accurate colors. So if I had that source image and I put that in there, I probably could have done it. I also could have done that in Canva and in Photoshop, just extracted those colors, right? But because of the lighting in my room, the paint colors that it chose were in the ballpark, but they were not accurate, right? Yeah. So for you, same thing. You could probably scan it and get something close, but that Easy Color Reader is really going to be...
That's a lot of work, though, on site. I use a gray card, and I can just white balance to a gray card after, which is the same thing. But, when you're on site, you're just trying to make it as quick as possible and as efficient, and you're going to start scanning every color of the wall.
Try and let me know.
No, for sure. So we dove into, or you mentioned it briefly, ethics, and that is something. I mean, what I know from a photography standpoint, because I'm nervous, but what do designers have to worry about? I mean, because I guess designs are IP also. I mean, they own the right to those designs, and if you're utilizing AI to do that, how does it work? I mean, if an AI spits out a render for you as even your first proof of concept or whatever is, to deliver it, is that your property? How does...
So when I last spoke with my IP lawyer about this, because everything changes so fast, so please don't quote me on this, but what he said is basically the term in the paragraph that you put in for your prompt, that is your intellectual property. So the image that it spits out is technically your IP. I don't know if that's exactly how it still is, but because of those words and that combination of words, then yes, that is technically your AI image. I always, when I do my presentation, say you have to disclose that it's AI. We are not in the business of tricking people to figure out, like, is this a real space or not?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. How do you have those communications with your client to let them know, like, this was generated by...
Oh, yeah.
AI.
Like, none of these products in here you can actually buy. This is AI, like, this is concept, but you just have to tell them. Like, don't be shady about it. Don't try and hide it. Just tell them what it is. This is part of my process.
All right, so let's shift towards the future. And obviously no one can know the future, not even AI.
Yeah.
Cheesy jokes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is just the beginning of AI. Like, literally, like you said, like, this whole thing came about 2022 when you started with this stuff. So, I mean, do you have ideas of where you can see this going? Is there stuff out there that is coming about that's going to change even what we're doing now? Or, I mean, let's talk about the future and how designers can even prepare themselves for what's going to come with AI.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I love getting this question because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen next week. Like, people are working on stuff, and it's a big rat race to see who's going to get their product out there, who's going to do it the fastest, and who's going to utilize it the best. So where we're going to be next week and where we're going to be in 5 years, I don't know. But I can say that if you look at it from an enhancement standpoint for your business, it can only get better. Like, if you don't look at it like a replacement for anything, if you think like, this is like my limitless drug, that's what it is. It's enhancing everything that you do so that you can do it in a more professional manner, faster, and get the time back to do the things that you want to do. Like, finish your work faster so you can go sit by the pool in the summer. Yeah. That's the goal.
But that's from a personal standpoint, I guess. What about the industry as a whole? I mean, how do you see the design industry changing? Because I think it's gonna change. Everything's gonna change. Not only the designers, but we're in a furniture showroom here. Like, that's gonna change. Everything's gonna change.
Everything's gonna change. I mean, it just is. I do some advising for AI programs. So a lot of them are stable diffusion based, which is nothing that we've even talked about today. Yeah. So what those programs basically do is they're building things that can take your text prompt, build 3D kitchens, and then give you a list of everything that it built in that kitchen in an accurate way. So that's going to change everything for designers, but it's up to us and these companies that hopefully like take into consideration the integrity of what we do to not cut us out. And that's what a lot of these companies that I speak with are doing. They're like, how can we help the designer and not give this technology to the end user who probably doesn't know how to utilize it, but could potentially be dangerous if they did. Yeah. When Google reverse image search came out, everybody was like, oh my gosh, they're going to search me. And they do. Yeah. But like, there's ways around it. There's always going to be ways to optimize what we do and bring that added value as, a professional in the space, putting eyes on it, that you just can't get from a computer.
Yeah. What about augmented reality? Because that's sort of in line with AI. And I don't know how much interior designers utilize augmented reality, but I feel like a showroom like this can use it tremendously. If you have a picture of your living room and you want to see what this looks like in your living room, is there a lot of AI integration with augmented reality? Because I feel like showrooms like this should use augmented reality all the time. I used to sell a lot of my own fine art. And when I used to have that built in on my website, I had an augmented reality where you can choose the piece you wanted, take a picture of your living room, and you can see how it looks up there.
Yep.
So how, is there a way to integrate AI into that?
Yeah. That's been around forever. Showroom tours, being able to render in your own products, do VR embeds into your website for that. That exists now. That's exists for a while. But I'd say the VR aspect versus the augmented reality, like take a picture of that sofa and then put it in your room. Yeah. I think that the virtual reality, that's going to be crazy pretty soon. Mm-hmm. So and I meant to mention this, one of the updates that's coming to OpenAI is called Sora. And Sora is a text to video format. So instead of text to image like DALL-E does, you can see the samples on their website right now, insanely realistic videos. So I see this as kind of a double-edged sword where for us as interior designers, instead of doing the conceptual imagery, being like, here, do you like this picture? Do you like that picture? We just create a walkthrough video of that. And then we show them.
That's what I was about to say. You can literally upload a 2D render and have it, or whatever, even a 3D render and have it create a walkthrough video, which is insane.
That's the goal. Right now, because of copyright restrictions, I don't see that happening anytime soon with this program, but I see offshoots of this program that will be able to do that with source images.
Cool. So as we close and we get towards the end, I mean, do you have any personal anecdote or story you can tell us and how even just a virtual design job where, like, if you didn't have AI, this wouldn't have worked, or share something where you're like, all right, like this was able to happen because of AI, and maybe it's a specific job or a specific part of your workflow on a job?
Yeah, I mean, it just speeds.
I want people to understand how important it is to utilize AI, and without it, there are certain aspects of your job you couldn't do or wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah. So I started AI for interior designers in November. I built the website, I built my training programs, and I priced everything in literally like 10 hours. Everything. I did email sequences. I built an opt-in. I mean, that probably took about 2 days. But had I not used AI to build all of that, it would have taken so much longer. Yeah. So like for interior designers, yes, we can use it through workflow. We can pick and choose where and when we want to use it. For me, like just being able to use the AI imagery from MidJourney before I start sourcing has saved me so much time to make sure that I'm on the same page with my clients before I waste time. So that's definitely beneficial. So for the things that like we don't want to do, it just helps us to get our SEO, search engine optimization, on point so that people can find us organically. And we can focus again on the design stuff that we want to get back to. For me, AI has not replaced anything that I do as an interior designer. Yeah. So, it's just simply like made the little things that I don't enjoy doing much more enjoyable, and they actually get done.
You don't have to do, exactly. So like I'm thinking how I utilize AI, and it's not anything that I wouldn't otherwise do anyway. If I had to write a blog post, I would sit there and write a blog post. And a lot of times I have to rewrite AI's blog post because it doesn't sound like me.
Right.
And as much as I tell it, rewrite this sounding like me or sounding a little more not as sophisticated or whatever the case is, you still have to work on it. But it's like you said, it's just replacing those tedious tasks that we all have to do that nobody likes doing. So. And it's fun. I'd like to have maybe a conversation another time with you off air, like about how photographers can utilize this, because I think it's pretty interesting. But I guess we'll close. You can just plug all your stuff again, because I think it's important that designers figure out a way to find you or reach out to you or see what you have to offer. Okay. Before I do that, I have one little other anecdote. Oh, okay, good. So my daughter's in first grade, but I went and I did career day, and I said, here, I have an interior designer, here's all my samples, go play with them. But today I'm going to create AI-inspired spaces, and I want you guys to all give me a prompt. Not one child in the 10 classes that I saw that day, over 300 kids, were like, I don't want to do this, AI scares me. Half of them were like, I already use it, I want to try it. So I think that new generations are going to be so much more adaptable to this, and I think we need to watch out for that. Well, it's like with anything else. I mean, my kids know how to navigate a phone better than my mother does. Yeah, my 2-year-old. Exactly. So, and it's not any different than anything else. Yeah, I mean, especially kids now with your first grader. I also have a first grader. I mean, this is what they're brought up with. This is what they know. Just like, I was brought up, when you need to change the TV channel, you have to, hit the clicker. Like that's what you know. And AI is just going to be a natural part of life for them. Yep. So it's important to embrace it. Yeah, for sure. I'd like to say I was brought up with Google, and I use that all the time, but I'm older than Google for high school. Yeah. But these kids, they're just going to have it, which is, a good thing and a bad thing. But it will definitely make them
a different breed, I have a feeling.
Yeah, when I tell my 10-year-old that you used to not be able to, you didn't have a phone, you'd have to go to the computer and you couldn't just look for anything. You'd have to sign on and hear that screechy modem sound for like 5 minutes. Yeah, he's like, what?
Yeah,
so
sounds made up.
Exactly. So, all right, cool. So AIforphotographers.com. Is that where they can find your stuff?
AI for photographers? No, didn't buy that one yet, but I did buy a lot of them.
I gotta finish this conversation.
Yeah, you might want to go buy it.
Gotta get it before you.
AI for interior designers.
And anywhere else, social media, same thing?
Yeah. I'm not on TikTok, but Instagram, Jenna, and then my last name is Jenna Gaidusek.
And we'll put links in the show notes to everything so you'll be able to find it.
Cool.
All right, cool. Thank you for your time. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend. I was planning on it, and I had to book a shoot.
Oh, okay.
So I get to go to New Jersey.
Go work.
Fun New Jersey.
Have fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.